All right, everybody. It is now 2:02 here in Chicago. My name is Matt Lindner. I'm the marketing manager for WTWH Healthcare, and this is Skilled Nursing News Demo Day presented by Outset Medical. You all are not here to hear from me, though you are here to hear from Team Outset Medical. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Scott Madison and Anna Howard. Scott and Anna, take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much, and welcome everyone. My name is Scott Madison. I'm a national account manager, specifically focused on skilled nursing facilities at Outset Medical. I've spent about 20 years in healthcare sales, kind of split up in the kind of large med tech companies like Medtronic and J&J, and most recently over the past 8 to 10 years, I've been focused on early to mid-stage companies with emerging technologies.
Thank you, Scott. I'm Anna Howard. I'm the clinical director for national and post-acute accounts for Outset Medical. And I've been with Outset a little over 5 years now. And prior to that, worked in critical care dialysis and nursing education and leadership for about 20 years. So during my tenure here at Outset, I have implemented over 300 acute and post-acute programs, provided subject matter expertise, and really nursing excellence for education. And I'm very passionate about empowering clinicians and improving dialysis care for patients nationwide. So it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today.
Yep. Here's just a quick agenda of everything we hope to cover over the next 15 to 20 minutes. Obviously, we want to discuss the current trends and challenges in SNF dialysis care, explore some dialysis care options, and then what that might look like to bring an in-house program to life in your facility. Anna's also going to cover kind of an overview of Tablo, our dialysis technology, and then we're going to wrap up with the Q&A. First, just to look at a high level of kind of what the ESRD, which is the end-stage renal disease patient kind of market looks like in the U.S., and that population is expected to grow to over 1 million patients. And what they estimate is about 15% of those patients are going to need to cycle through a SNF for care. So you might already be feeling this impact or from a dialysis discharge strategy with your acute and post-acute facilities that are really looking for skilled nursing facilities to provide a potential solution, and for that solution to potentially be in-house. When you think about some of the challenges in SNF dialysis care right now, kind of what we hear from, and again, I talk to SNFs all over the United States, and if you're currently utilizing transportation, obviously there can be a potential better way, because those patients, putting those patients on a bus 3 days a week obviously affects their experience, but it also kind of brings in liability and risk to yourself as well. And as you look to partner with your other acute and post-acute facilities, if there's any transportation issues that do occur, that can actually affect into a hospital readmission, which can affect their reimbursement. If you're currently using like a third-party dialysis on site, oftentimes they might limit your census because they're actually controlling the quality and the types of patients you can actually admit to your facility. So with the ability to accept higher acuity patients, there might be obviously an opportunity. And then again, if we hear on those transportation, if those patients are spending the majority of their day away from your facility, but they have other clinical needs like rehab, a lot of time their care continuum gets disrupted, and that can ultimately lead to misaligned clinical goals. So let's explore maybe 4 different options and kind of the risk and benefits that are associated with that. Obviously, the first one is denied admission. The second one is transportation, which I've touched on a little bit in the previous slide. And then utilizing a third-party provider on site. And then what we want to hopefully focus on a little bit more today, which is an in-source program. So obviously, if you're currently denying admission, you're potentially missing out on a revenue opportunity. Obviously, census growth is key to each one of your facilities. And so by limiting that, you're also potentially missing out on providing this solution for the patients in your area. From a transportation standpoint, we've talked a little bit about reducing risk, increasing the patient's experience, but also operationally, what I hear from SNFs is the operational cost is really, really high. So it averages about $411 per patient per day. And up and above that, oftentimes SNFs are having to staff drivers for these as well that fall underneath on their labor count. So I think there's definitely an opportunity for improvement there. And then some of you may already be utilizing or want to consider a third party on site. And ultimately what happens, and that's more of a den setting where you might have, 4, 6, or 8 chairs, and the SNF bears that infrastructure cost, and then you're typically charged a sitting fee per treatment, as well as sometimes a management fee or management minimum fee. And you don't really have control over the quality or the acuity of the patient that's actually allowed to come on site to your facility. And then that provider will actually bill and collect because they will hold the license. From an in-house program, that's really what we wanted to educate you on today, in that you have an opportunity now through CMS and through your state to actually gain a dialysis license. So you would still bear that infrastructure cost, but it's going to give you the ability to potentially add that new revenue stream. So not only could you bill for your skilled side on the admission, but you could also capture that dialysis treatment revenue while controlling the quality and the labor. So let's dig in a little bit deeper on those two options. Again, when we talk independent dialysis organization, that is synonymous with a third-party provider. And so you may be either familiar with some of the larger companies that provide that service, but at outset, we have our Tablo technology, which we're going to dive in deeper in the next few slides. But you do have an opportunity to partner with one of our IDO providers that has Tablo, and you could also potentially own the program as well. So there's really 4 components to consider with this: the licensure, the staffing, the costs, and the reimbursement. So let's break these down a little bit deeper. So from an IDO perspective, this can potentially be a quicker go-to-market strategy if you wanted to do something on site. And what happens is that third party actually owns the license. They typically provide the staffing. The SNF bears the cost and are charged a sitting fee and or management fee. And then the IDO, the third party, will supply the supplies and the capital. And then they collect all the reimbursement and the revenue stream for the dialysis treatments. So this, again, if this is an option that you would like to consider, we do have regional partners, and we'd love to have a deeper conversation with you about that. But as far as the SNF, as far as the wholly owned program, as far as insourcing, really what that process looks like is you would establish a separate LLC. So for instance, if you were Great Bend Skilled Nursing, you would create a separate LLC called Great Bend Dialysis LLC. And that allows you to, again, to gain that state and CMS license, and it allows you to bill for both the admission revenue as well as the dialysis revenue. You would have complete control over hiring, quality, and staffing. Typically, these programs have anywhere on average from 1.5 to 4 full-time employees that you might add to your staff to run your dialysis program. You would bear the same infrastructure cost. And then again, from an operational efficiency and cost reduction, you're going to eliminate any of the transportation costs as well as any of the sitting fees or the management fees charged by the third party. So to kind of the benefits of this insourcing program, number one is the bottom line impact. Our whole goal in an insourced dialysis program is to help you, number one, grow census, have control over quality, and then give the patient a better experience, and again, reduce your operational costs. So I often get asked, what does this look like to add this ancillary line to my skilled nursing facility? And typically that's going to average somewhere for those Medicare B dialysis treatment revenue, you're going to potentially generate, somewhere between 500,000 to $1 million in new revenue. And then from a census standpoint, if you were able to increase your census, there's typically another $1 million to $2 million that you can potentially gain. So our programming impact somewhere ranges between 500,000 to $3 million, which can be very substantial. And you're also obviously having control over the operation as well as enhancing the patient's experience. The market differentiation is key in regards to dialysis discharge strategies. So as your business development people approach acute care facilities as well as post-acute, the idea that you're able to raise your hand and say, we're going to provide a different solution, we're going to have a fully owned program, that should make you a potential destination to attract more dialysis patients and better partner with these facilities to give these patients a better experience around dialysis care. So how do we get there? At Outset, we have a fully established roadmap to help you. And obviously, as a next step, we'd love to dive deeper and have a specific conversation. But we really have the roadmap in place that will allow you to, number one, assess your facility readiness as far as what you're going to need to potentially open up a den, as far as the licensing requirements go, and what that means from a state and a CMS standpoint. Also, what does it look like, to create that LLC? We're really there with you step by step. We've created all the policies, the procedures, the training that's going to allow you to implement this model and implement it with a high success rate. And our ongoing program optimization is really where Anna steps in, but we're really there side by side with you to ensure that the program launches successfully. Anna, do you have any other additional thoughts on that?
Well, Scott, you did a great job describing really the process. It is a very reproducible process that we have in place, and we partner with you along the way, to Scott's point, to make sure that you get towards that successful go live and improve the quality of care of your patients. Thank you.
So on the next slide, we're going to kind of dive into the technology, which again is really the driver. So whether you go to look to start your own in-house program and get licensed, or you potentially want to partner with a different third party, Tablo is really driving some operational efficiencies, and Anna's going to jump in a little bit deeper on the technology.
Thank you, Scott. So we've talked about the operational side of things, but we want to spend a little bit of time talking about the technology and how we're set apart from some of the other devices that are available in this space. So this is Tablo, and Tablo is a pre-configured dialysis machine that has 510(k) FDA approval for use in the home, all the way to ICU type treatments. And so we can do our standard IHD treatments, is what we see typically in the long-term care facility space, or isolated ultrafiltration. And in the critical care space, we can do SLED and PERT type treatments. There's a lot of versatility in the device, as well as a lot of safeguards that are in place from a sensor-based automation standpoint to make sure that patients are safe throughout the course of the treatment. We also have a touch screen that really takes you through a setup and teardown process, as well as a very stepwise approach to making sure that you can address alarms and troubleshooting, as well as machine maintenance. The reason Tablo is pre-configured is because it includes the water treatment components in the device, as well as produces the dialysate on demand, similar to other dialysis machines, with just a very small amount of equipment. And so you have the device, you have your concentrates, acid and bicarb, and you have this pre-strung cartridge that clicks into place in the middle of the device. It's for use with any high flux dialyzer. And when you're ready to do a treatment, you simply connect to water, power, and drain, and then go ahead through about a 15-minute setup process, following those steps on the screen. And again, safeguards and safe checks are ensured along the way with sensors and prompts that control human factors. As far as the water treatment components, those are all things that are monitored by our sensors and software. And then information goes up from the touch screen to our cloud-based platform called Tablo Hub. And on Tablo Hub, there's near real-time monitoring. There's also the option for full EMR integration, as well as the opportunity to look at treatment, disinfect, and service reports in a digital footprint. We also gather thousands of data points on the device to maximize machine performance. All dialysis machines require ongoing maintenance. So for Tablo, we've thought about this aspect very carefully to make sure that we can address any maintenance needs. We can also virtually remote into the device to provide support. And we have a full field service team that's trained to review logs on the devices that come up into the cloud to preemptively understand what type of repairs the machine might need even before they send boots on the ground. And so there's a lot that differentiates us. It really takes dialysis into this century and navigates a lot of changes that have been much needed throughout the course of time. So excited to present the technology, and I'll answer questions that come up towards the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Anna, for sharing that. And I think Tablo is really the key driver to consider if you're going if you want to consider a third-party company on site that utilizes Tablo, or you wanted to insource your own program with Tablo. The dialysate aid on demand provides just a different solution operationally. As you think to operationalize a program, either third party on site or with an in-source program, the ability to have minimal post work as far as for batching dialysates that's done on legacy equipment, where because when you're managing the labor or you're potentially paying the overtime cost for the labor, there's a unique improvement with that we've seen in other skilled nursing facilities that have implemented our technology. Also, you think about obviously labor turnover, staff training, the interface on our device is really can be trained to very quickly, can be set up very quickly. So again, we want to maximize the labor portion of this, and this operationally really fits into skilled nursing facilities and really provides a unique solution.
Absolutely. Scott, I'm seeing a question come in the chat, actually, if you don't mind me interrupting
Sure.
you here. In a skilled nursing facility, would you need a CHT or are CNAs as a home patient caregiver under supervision of a RN LPN?
I can take that one. There's a
Yep.
couple different staffing strategies that we often see in the SNF space. One would be to have the traditional care model where there's RN oversight with skilled dialysis technicians. There is an opportunity to also train providers for home type care. And so there's a couple different models that can be followed and investigated. And that's something that we work through as we meet with you in the discovery process to really standardize your strategic implementation plan based on your needs.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anna. Appreciate it. Guys, you want to continue?
Yeah, I'll just wrap up. This is actually our last slide. So yeah, just to kind of bring it home, again, post-COVID, really what we hear from SNFs are, my census is either declining or stuck. And so how do we impact your bottom line? Number one, we want to help you grow census. And again, by potentially attracting, and offering a different model to get these dialysis patients within your facility. And once you do that with the in-source program, you're potentially going to obviously gain a new revenue stream. And then from an operational cost reduction standpoint, whether you're using transportation or third party on site, there's substantial dollars that can potentially be eliminated with our program. And then operational control, obviously you're probably offering other ancillary services right now through your skilled nursing. This is just another extension of that. Dialysis is one of the top 5 program considerations to add to your facility. And we have a program approach that's going to allow you to easily implement this into your facility. And the technology, as you saw, is obviously very beneficial from an operational standpoint and a clinical standpoint. From enhancing patient care, again, there's something to be said to not putting, again, those patients on transportation 3 days a week. And then there's also something to be said if you're using a third-party provider, that there might be operational improvements if you have control over the quality, and that's your patient all the way through the process. And then from a market differentiation process, again, we want to follow that patient from the ICU to the post-acute facility all the way to the home. And again, the benefit of having that in-source program and having control over the quality and the operations is, again, we feel like you can better partner to drive referrals to your facility with our program. And we want to obviously stand beside you and help you through that process. So yeah, that concludes our presentation. Obviously, if there's additional questions, we'd love to answer those.
Yeah, we've actually had a couple come through in the chat. So one from Jason Steers. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name here. Do the consumables of acid and by ACB sold by Outset by Outset, or is it the same as a dialyzer? You can use other approved acid and bicarb concentrates.
So I'll take that one. Jason, any 45X concentrate can be utilized. We do provide those as part of our treatment bundles, but if a organization would like to secure those from another location, that's perfectly fine as well, as long as they meet, our IFU requirements and the 45X concentration. And then as far as the dialyzer, it's any high flux dialyzer that the physician would like to prescribe. So a lot of versatility there and ability for the physician to choose which dialyzers, which size of dialyzer they would like to use for the treatment.
All right. Thanks, Jason, and thank you, Anna, for that response. Next up is from Dennis White. Dennis asks, what is the average partner and equipment startup, and does this interface with PCC?
So you want me to take that one, Scott?
Yeah, can you repeat that question? I think just the average startup.
Yeah. What is the average partner and equipment startup, and does this interface with PCC?
Yeah, so as far as this startup goes, again, the facility, you'll need, water drain infrastructure needs, as well as a dedicated outlet. From a technology investment, again, typically you're going to run, a sweet spot for us is somewhere in that 8 to 12 patient range. You can be profitable or scale up from 4 to 6 patients, but ultimately we want to be in that 8 to 12 patient range. So you would have somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 7 tableaus. And so, that operational investment is typically done by lease. And, the capital can range anywhere from, as low as 150,000 up to around 300,000 from a technology standpoint. But typically that's operationalized into a lease payment to better manage it.
And then on point click care, yes, we can do the interface with the EMR and bring that data over and have that data reliability and really nursing satisfaction driven through that. So yeah.
Okay. Great. One question coming in from an anonymous attendee. You mentioned the potential revenues. How many patients is that based on?
Yeah, again, so normally if it kind of depends on what your current census is. So we want to build off of that. If there is no census, obviously the sweet spot financially really starts at around 6 patients on average, and that builds into that 8 to 12 patients. Again, is kind of optimal as far as the profit margins goes. And we'd obviously we could share an ROI on a follow-up call individually.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to remind everybody of. Outset Medical has everybody's information that registered, and they'll be following up with you individually after this call. Additionally, we are recording this call, and yeah. So one other question that I had personally, Scott, you touched on the care straight from the ICU all the way into the home, and this was something that you and I had talked, the three of us had talked about prior to this call. Is improving the quality of care just across continuum. How are you able to do that, and why is that so important? When it comes to saving the time and the resources and improving the patient outcomes, which is really why we are all here.
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, it gets back to obviously we need to gain clearance with the dialysis equipment. So our product can produce that clinically in an ICU setting, in a post-acute setting, all the way to the home. So as far as the patient's experience goes, we want to help follow that patient. And there's different technologies right now in that space, and the space really hasn't been innovated in 20 to 30 years. And there hasn't been a device that could go across that continuum. So again, as far as when you get back to CMS, it's actually a home license that SNF falls under. So we think there's great value in the patient's experience if clinically, obviously they get what their needs met from a dialysis standpoint, but also that from a technology standpoint, they learn that technology throughout that care continuum. And so, when they come to your facility, that's really a step 2 we can talk with you about is what happens when my patient gets discharged. And with your license that you might gain, that patient could potentially go home with a Tablo piece of equipment still under your care, or you could potentially even make your center into an outpatient clinic where that patient that was discharged from your facility is able to come back and still see that consistent care through Tablo.
Interesting. Everybody, we got about 4 minutes left. Plenty of time for any additional questions if y'all have any. Jason has worked with Anna and Outset on an inpatient unit and found that Anna was a great resource, and Tablo provided excellent support in the process. Those are things we love to hear on these demos. Jason, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. It's been a pleasure to work with you as well.
Anna and Scott, I feel like a lot of people don't know that they can become a licensed dialysis provider in an SNF setting. Can you talk a little bit more about, how you guys are educating people on that and what you're doing to improve awareness?
Yeah, I really think it's like kind of the logical next step. Obviously, if you want to gain additional revenue, grow your census, this is an option for you. Not everyone knows that. And obviously, there are different state regulations that we would like to obviously talk to you individually about your state, and whether or not, obviously, if you have a certificate of need. But there's different avenues to go. Some of these can be accomplished, though, very quickly in probably about a quarter of the states in the U.S. So obviously want to dive into this, but I think CMS recognizes, again, if you get back to that growing population of dialysis and where those 15% of those are going to come through the SNF, there's an absolute clinical need for facilities to step up and say, we can manage this program, and we feel like Outset has got the technology that's going to make it easier for you to operationalize that.
Absolutely. We've got about 2 minutes left. The training and the onboarding for this, what's that like, and what's your support? You might have touched on this a little bit earlier, but can you expand upon that around like what the training and the onboarding is like here?
Yeah, Scott, I can take that one. As far as the training that Outset's able to provide, we have put together a comprehensive program that has didactic training available to nurses, dialysis technicians, biomed technicians, on our Outset University platform. Those modules are really based for the adult learner to engage in active learning as they go through them, with objectives to meet along the way, and then test quizzes at the end. And so we've created certificates of completion for that didactic training. There's the initial training there. There's hands-on training that we provide with a local on-site clinical specialist, and also some go-live support with that clinical specialist there with your team to make sure that they transition well and are successful with patient treatments. And then in addition to that, there is a advanced training that's available out on our Outset University, and another certificate that's available for completion on there. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel with machine training. It is included with the program as well. There's no additional charge. As far as once you purchase the equipment, we provide the training. So it's very comprehensive, and we've really thought of everything there.
Thanks, Anna. We have one more question coming in. How long is the training and onboarding time about?
So it varies on the end user on how long it takes them to complete the didactic training. I've seen some folks complete it in a couple of hours. I've seen some folks maybe that have some interruptions take longer. As far as the hands-on training, we usually do a class that takes anywhere from 2.5 to 4 hours, depending on the class size. And so we just make sure that folks get plenty of hands-on with mock treatments, as well as some simulation-based learning there, to make sure that they have every aspect of setting up and tearing down and actually going through some troubleshooting. So that's our training component. As far as the onboarding piece, there are some, regulatory internal things that you'll attend to, making sure that you have some internal dialysis competencies in place. Also making sure that you've met any, needed onboarding activities as well. And so it just depends with, the staffing that you have, how long it takes them to navigate that. But most often we see, maybe a couple of weeks spent in onboarding, EMR education, those types of things from an operational standpoint. And then our training can be achieved in a very short period of time. Sometimes we even do the hands-on training, the week before you're ready to go live, so that there's good muscle memory and understanding, and then you're ready to treat patients.
Okay. Great. So we've gone a little over, but that's totally fine. Anybody else have any questions out there before we call it a day here? Seeing none, there will be some follow-up from Team Outset Medical. I wanted to thank everybody, Scott and Anna. That was a lovely and engaging presentation. for joining us for Skilled Nursing News Demo Day presented by Outset Medical. We will be running this program again next year as well. So, oh, I'm sorry, Wendy Lindgren. You have a question? Yes, I'll just allow you to talk. Go ahead, Wendy. Yep. Wendy, can you unmute yourself real quick? Wendy? Wendy, I'm not hearing your microphone. If you want to type it in the chat, that's fine. Let's see. Oh, you sent it in. Not seeing the question in the Q&A. It's odd. Okay. Wendy, can you retype it in the general chat here? I'm not seeing the question come through on the back end here. Oh, the training of 2 weeks is sufficient for certification.
So just to reiterate, as far as the staff training, you would be using skilled dialysis personnel for that. And so they would have that background that's required by CMS for clarity. As far as the care partner training, that is a whole different subset of making sure that individuals have adequate training that meet the needs of and the requirements in the SNF space. And so just for clarity, the 2 weeks may be a bit longer for those types of individuals that are not skilled. And then internally, you're meeting your CMS guidance and regulations as it pertains to the skill sets and competencies of dialysis nurses and required education there. Hopefully that helps answer the question.
So what is the training for SNF staff time then? What is her follow-up?
Yeah, so that can be prolonged dependent on the individual and their skill sets, just and adjustable.
Okay. Anybody else have any further questions or need any further clarifications? Wendy, thank you for your questions. We appreciate them. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today for Skilled Nursing News Demo Day presented by Outset Medical. Scott and Anna, thank you again for your time for walking us through that presentation. That was incredibly engaging and informative, and I know that I certainly learned a lot. Again, this presentation was recorded, and Outset Medical will be reaching out to everybody who registered. And I want to thank you all again, and I hope you all have a great rest of your Thursday. Take care.